cluster. It is time to navigate through this giant cluster. You know what? I'll be live with you in just 1 minute. So in the meantime, please feel free to support the channel by subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. All right, everybody, we are live. Johnny 5 alive here on the clusterfuck. Let me know if there's any sound problems, because I certainly know I was having an intro video issue, and I'm just changing the font here, which I forgot to do, and I forgot to check and make sure that my theme colors were all lined up. There we go. We got it done. All right. This is a good show. This is a good show today. And it was everyone, somebody from Kicks calling us toxic. You can't see it. It's like a little gif or something, but are we toxic, or is this clusterfuck toxic? I'm not sure what he means. I'm not sure, but this show, we have to go down some crazy rabbit holes, and I could only go down so many to look at Ram Dass. And I tell you, I hate to disappoint the person who requested. They kind of mentioned, like, hey, they were a little disappointed by the Alan Watts kind of show, like, oh, because like me, they kind of liked the teachings. And so they said, well, I hope it's not like that with Ram Dass, but I have a bad feeling. And I said, you know what? We'll do a show on Ram Dass. I had never really considered him or even thought about him or looked at how important he may or may not be. And what I realize is he's actually quite important. He's influenced a lot of people, and that his roots are not exactly pure. Now, I'm going to say this again as a caveat before we get in there. I don't know 100% if these people start off, with this devious thing in mind, or they start off with good intentions and they lead down a pathway where the CIA or other institutions or founders show up and they take the money thinking it'll be good, kind of like Charlie Kirk. I don't know what is what. I can only tell you what route they went and who they were affiliated with. Their true intentions could have started out with the best intentions. Often the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions, right? So I'm not trying to paint these guys necessarily as they are evil, but I'm trying to show you how they at minimal were infiltrated or adapted or used for an agenda much larger than themselves, if that makes sense to you. So I wrote out a list of things that I do, and what I'm looking for. I'm kind of explain it as I go. But the first half, of course, we're going to talk about Ram Dass. I was going to mention Timothy Leary, but we'll have to do a separate show. That there's just not time to talk about Timothy Leary, even though he's associated with Ram Dass. I just don't have the time. I have so many tabs open in my browser right now. That is crazy. Then we're going to have a little 5-10 minute intermission. And the second half, we're going Frazzledrip. We're going to talk about the great Hill and Bill and the Epstein stuff and the adrenochrome. We're going to cover that a little bit more to end it up. And then, of course, next Sunday, we are going to get into Jim Jones again. We're going to recover Jim Jones and his involvement with the CIA. And he really was a crazy cult leader, for sure, for sure. But just because you are not nefarious and you haven't done anything psychotic, and maybe you're a cult leader with this pious front, that doesn't mean you're not doing damage. And that doesn't mean that, sometimes we're looking for the craziest stuff, and sometimes the more subtle stuff has a lot of damage over time. And it's hard to know where to start. So we'll switch into the website mode, and we will start off with the basics about Ram Dass and who he really was and what school he went to, who he's associated with. And if I miss anything or get anything wrong, don't forget to mention it in the chat. But remember, the website is theclusterfuck.com. There it is there. So we've got that. We've got all the links to go to the podcast. Of course, we're streaming live to YouTube, Substack, Twitch, and Kick. Kick. I need to have a drink. I need to wet in the whistle. I want to give people time to stream in here. About my intro glitching. There's a layer of static that when I was editing the video, I put this layer of static, and I think I'm going to have to go in and take it out because I think it's that video layer of static that I put in that's causing the issue. So I'll probably have to redo it and make it and simplify it just to make things easy. Now, I've just gone down such a rabbit hole, you guys, that I'm like, where do I even start with this? Right? So let's pull up. I call it my Wikipedia. That's where I'll start. Birthplace, parents, connections, schooling, the basics, when they were born. I say I do a Wikipedia. And then I go from there. Then I'm going to look for what universities they go to. What did they study? Who were their affiliates in these universities? What was their early career looking like? Or if they didn't go to university, do they have a jail record, a criminal record? Could they have been approached there? And then one of the most important things that you have to look at is financial backers. So we're going to go through that. Then, of course, I start looking into, once you get the financial backers, you start looking at what was the religious, what were their cult practices, how did they approach this? What beliefs did they have? What manipulations? You start looking at video clips of their body language. Were they on foreign operations? Did they own nonprofits? Were they opening up foundations? And were they opening up foundations in foreign countries? That's suspicious. And were there any suspicious deaths involved around them? That's kind of the list that I start out with. And what I'm looking for with these particular fellows. Let's see. And you wouldn't believe the level of connection of Ram Dass. I just have to find the proper tab, like I told you guys. I have so many tabs open right now. Let's go Wikipedia. You're seeing Ram Dass. Looks like a nice, cheerful, super cool guy. Harmless, almost. When you watch videos, and we'll watch a couple videos of him, you'll see he's very soft spoken. He talks about the now and not worrying about the future. And although some of these philosophies can be true, they're all, you can bet the people in power are definitely worrying about the future and plotting against you all along. So it doesn't help to have you just nilly-willy always being in the now, not connected to your ancestors and not, perceiving the future. Because I'll tell you, the people in power certainly are. And of course, we have Ram Dass. His real name is Richard Alpert. And you'll come to see that he did a name change that was given to him by his guru. And I'm always suspicious when people have name changes. One of the things that Alan Watts, I think, said that was brilliant is that even if you are a Western person and you go to take on Eastern studies, you're always going to be a Western person because that is your baseline. You're never going to be a yogi or someone from Tibet or someone from India because you didn't have the first formations of your years there. You're always going to be somebody from the West, role playing some spiritual, guru. And so whenever I see name changes, I immediately like, oh, here we have a place where there is an identity change. And what was going on there? And what's the purpose of the identity change? Those are questions that come to me. Because if you go into certain religions, maybe you could take LDS, they give you like a special name. It doesn't consume your whole identity, but it's part of the kind of brainwashing. But whenever I look at cults that give you new identities, it's part of cutting you off from your family and your old identity and controlling your new self, who you will be. I think that's part of MK Ultra programming. So right away when I see that he has a different name, I'm like, that's interesting. I find that weird. I would be uncomfortable if someone wanted me to call me something else than the name that I was born with. But that's just me. Let's go on. Let's get into his early life. Of course, he was born to his parents were Gertrude and George Alpert. His father was a lawyer from Boston. He considered himself an atheist. His Jewish trip was primarily political Judaism. That kind of says Zio to me, though I could be wrong. I actually didn't get to look up any Zionism, but I wouldn't doubt that he had some Zionist tendencies. There could be some. I mean, there is. Ram Dass influenced people who are Zionists, and I'll show you that in the future. So we'll go there. So he's born 1931. He's born just before the war. He was a war baby, a child of the war. Through the war, his childhood would have been, so he would have experienced whatever happened during World War II, the rise of Hitler, etc., etc., etc. He went to Northampton School, graduating cum laude 1948. He earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Tufts University in 1952. His father wanted him to go to medical school, but while at Tufts, he decided to study psychology instead. So right here, he's into psychology. Remember that. So he gets his master's in psychology from Wesleyan University in 1954. He was recommended to Stanford University by his mentor at Wesleyan, David McClelland. David McClelland's important here, and I'll tell you why. David McClelland was a prominent Harvard psychologist known for his need theory of motivation. He's linked to controversial CIA programs of MKUltra through his associations at Harvard during the Cold War era. He participated in the Harvard Psilocybin Project. He was a supervisor of Timothy Leary. He did LSD and CIA funding. Many psychological research projects at Ivy League institutions were covertly or indirectly by CIA's MKUltra, and McClelland's predecessor was his colleague at Harvard, Henry Murray, and Henry Murray conducted stressful social experiments on undergraduates, including Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, that were part of the broader MK Ultra network. So they were using undergraduates as experimentation. So Henry Murray was associated with, and the predecessor to McClellan. McClellan is the one who is recommending Alpert, or Ram Dass as he eventually becomes. He is the mentor of Ram Dass when he is Alpert. just 6 degrees of separation. Alpert wrote his doctoral thesis on achievement anxiety, receiving his PhD in psychology, so he's a doctor, from Stanford in 1957. Then he did his professorship in Harvard. So McClellan goes to Cambridge, Massachusetts to teach at Harvard. And he helped Albert get a tenure track position there in 1958 as an assistant clinical psychological professor. And Albert worked in social relations department and the psychology department and the graduate school of education and health services, where he was apparently a therapist. He specialized in human motivation, which is an interesting thing, and personality development. This is MK Ultra. This is trying to control people to a T. Personality development. Okay? These are keywords. These sound nice, like, oh, I'm going to develop my personality. But when the MK Ultra and the CIA, remember all these institutions and rich people, they pump money into these universities for this stuff. So they're saying, oh, it's just personality development. What they mean is mind control and how they can change your brain and develop your personality instead of the one you have. That's what they're talking about. I can almost guarantee you. He also, his first book was Identification and Child Rearing. Bum, bum, bum. Now, after returning from visiting professorship at the California Berkeley, Alpert devoted himself to joining Leary in experimentation with and intensive research into the potentially therapeutic effects of hallucinogenic drugs. When they use these words, therapeutic, I think they just reframe it. I think this is reframing, like, hey, we were fucking with people's head, but it was therapeutic. Alfred and Leary co-founded the nonprofit. There we go. We got a nonprofit. That's suspicious right there. International Federation for Internal Freedom. It's always convoluted. They did that in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in order to carry out studies in the religious use of psychedelic drugs. Now, this is going to be important when he goes to India, and this is what's going to tie him into CIA operations that I'm pretty sure he was doing, because this is something not only that he was doing or the CIA had been doing over in these foreign countries, but the British had been doing it long before. They had been doing it in India and looking at how cults and religion could serve them to manipulate the population. So, oh, it's just so crazy. So he does that. And I believe at some point he's let go. He's dismissed from Harvard. Him and Leary are dismissed from Harvard, which I find suspicious. He's dismissed from Harvard because apparently they gave psilocybin to an undergraduate. But if you hear what I said, his predecessor, McClellan, was drugging up undergraduates as well, and he was never dismissed. So something's interesting here. He gets dismissed, and then he becomes counterculture. It sounds like that's more of a cover. Like, he's dismissed, but remember, the CIA doesn't like people who are like good and follow the rules and behave. They might see this as a benefit, that these people were willing to abandon ethics and drug up their undergraduates. They could be helpful. These kind of radical go-getter, maybe sociopathic personalities could be very useful for us. They don't hire people to go and do these foreign missions that are like you and me. They would never hire me because I'd be like, I'm not doing that. That's totally unethical. This is crazy. Right? There's lots of different, you can go look it up. There's lots of different experiments, Good Friday experiment. So there's lots of things that Ram Dass was doing. And so when he gets dismissed, it seems like we got his name change happening in 67. So he's dismissed in 63. I mean, he's a doctor. It's hard to lose your tenure like that. So it just makes me suspicious as to why he could be possibly dismissed, that this is a cover. Mm. Yeah, and we're going to have to go into who funds this guy. For sure, 100%, because it's quite fascinating. So the Millbrook and psychedelic counterculture is what happened after he was dismissed, right? And they had a journal called the Psychedelic Review. It was about cultivating the divinity within each person. You remember, you guys talk, you guys see me on here. If you come here all the time, I don't think you need drugs to do any kind of divinity. You just have to get quiet, fold your towels, do something mundane, and stuff shows up. Like, this is so ridiculous. Um, they did LSD group sessions. They were looking for a permanent route to a higher consciousness, like wide open. Woo! And remember, this is right up the CIA's alley. Remember, at the time, and even before this, the CIA is procuring witches, astrologists, psychic mediums, warlocks, Satanists, all sorts of stuff, doing research on remote viewing. They're into this stuff. So this is not out of the spectrum that we know with MK often that the CIA is experimenting with. And I don't want to be pessimistic, guys, but anyone who is famous in that counterculture, you really have to look at them, because a lot of this counterculture stuff was operated by the CIA for good or for bad. Alpert and Leary also co-authored Psychedelic Experience, based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And remember, there was resistance in Tibet. There's a whole bunch of countries that play into this. It's not just India. There was a lot of different countries that the CIA was trying to get into, because they were under the threat of communism from Russia, communism from China, and they were doing all sorts of crazy stuff, getting into Tibet, getting into India, getting into Korea. They remember, I told you they put the Moonies in Japan, the Moonies cult. They helped fund that was to counteract. We'll keep going. Just remember, this is their objective, apparently. I don't know if it has to do with communism so much as a globalist world domination, but maybe the two were happening side by side. Maybe the communist thing was just a front. So it's 1967 that he travels to India. And we're going to switch screens because I have a really good in-depth article that's going to talk about that. Let's see here. Everybody's quiet in the room. Let me know if this all makes sense so far. Let me know if you're feeling the vibes, because we are going to take a little break here. Well, we're going to give you some clips of what I find very interesting about Ram Dass. I think this is it. This is where we want to go. Yeah. This is AndreaNolan.com. The article is called Ram Dass in the Ringstrasse. And we are going to go into who he met there. I'm going to put up a little clip. Is this it? So this says, the following information comes from Divine Reality, a biography of Neem. Neem is that guru that Ram Dass meets in India. He goes to meet. And everyone thinks, oh, he just goes there to do spiritual stuff because he's experimenting and he just happens to meet this guy. But I don't think that's how it played out. And his full name, I'll tell you here, his full name is Neem Karoli Baba. He was born Laxman Narayan Sharma. He is a Brahmin. It's very important to know that India has a caste system. and the Brahmins are on top. So this is not a guy that comes from the poor. This is a guy on top in the elite positions. We're going to get into how he was probably involved with the British and all sorts of corrupt stuff there, that he wasn't as pious. We'll look at some pictures of him. Um, a biography of Neem, written by his acolyte Ravi Prakash Pandey. Neem was a miracle worker who had an agreement with the local Brahmin community around the village of Neem Karori, an agreement which turned sour over money. Neem then hung around the Ganges River at the Kilagat, recruiting soldiers under Colonel McKenna. I think that's a British command. The colonel was strict about cult leaders usually, but one day he came back to his quarters to find Neem sleeping in his bed, and immediately McKenna became a convert to Neem's cult. McKenna was Neem's first Western convert, so the story goes, and the colonel gave the guru full access to his soldiers. Powerful Indians soon followed because Neem had universalist appeal. What Neem Karoli Baba and Colonel McKenna were doing is precisely the same as what Quaker leader George Fox did to establish Quakerism in the 40s and 50s. Fox established Quakerism by preaching to parliamentarian soldiers and was charismatic enough to get noticed. He was then approached by the military brass for formal relationships, which Fox claimed he rejected. Fox's followers went on to dominate pamphlet-based propaganda in English, as well as the sex trade in London and the Pennsylvania colony. You guys didn't know that Quakers were doing sex trades, did you? The British military has a long history of exploiting cults among its recruits. What did the British intellectuals really think of Neem? This is Ram Dass's mentor. This is the guy who gave Ram Dass his name. What did they think of the type of spirituality? They had the benefit of over a century of up-close observation. For example, Raphael Hirst was a theosophist and member of the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain. Although a proponent of neo-Hindu spiritualism for Western esoterics in 1994, he had this to say: one heard so much of certain so-called holy men who possessed repute of having acquired deep wisdom and strange powers. So one traveled through scorching days and sleepless nights to find them, only to find well-intentioned fools, scriptural slaves, and venerable know-nothings, money-seeking conjurers, jugglers with a few tricks, and pious frauds. So that's what the British found when they went there. Good evening, J.E. Merrick. Glad to have you here. So the British have a lot of experience with this, but we're going to go down in this actual article here because it actually tells us more about how Ram Dass really came to meet him. So this guy is a manipulator. He's at the top. And remember, if you're a Brahmin in Indian society, you view everyone else as beneath you. It's a lot of bigotry, a lot of discrimination, and they use the idea of karma not in a good way. They use the idea of karma to say, hey, if you're poor and you're living at the bottom, you must have bad karma and did something bad in another life. Therefore, you deserve to be down there. They use karma as a control mechanism so that they can stay rich and they can abuse the poor, not help them, and keep them down there. That's pretty twisted. So I'm going to go on to read this article. I want to get to the part. So that's that part. We want to get down to the part. There he is there. And there's pictures of him laying around. There he is there. Weirdo. This is a good article. I'm going to give you guys actually the link to read it all. If you like, in the benefits of being live, you get the links. I want to go down to this part because they got John Lennon. This guy is literally kind of like a John of God. He's recruiting people all over. And I want to get to the part. Mark Zuckerberg goes there. Oh my God, this gets crazy. Okay. So Colonel McKenna and Neem started was a roving preacher act, an act that hit on the same tropes which the British East India Company have found so useful: universalism, fuzzy radical equality, fuzzy feminism, but tailored for areas outside of the Calcutta sphere at the time, when industrialists dreamed of united Indian nation. Ideological, Neem followed Rammoy Roy's footsteps, that must be a predecessor of him, during the later part of the Swadeshi movement that Gandhi and his promoters exploited. You guys don't know that Gandhi is a fraud. 100%. I don't even have time to get into that. Neem, who is the guru who gave Ram Dass his name, apparently, loved train travel, first class. So they all love first class stuff. We can't even get into Mother Teresa because that's another shit show. It's absolutely disgusting what humans do. So something happened in 1965, though, almost 20 years after the end of the Raj and Makina's military funding, which put Neem on a very different path to that of a hermeticist. The story goes that Neem was found by a painfully young American named Kermit Michael Riggs at the end of the hippie trail in Kathmandu. Riggs was a surfer dude who went by the handle Big Rig. In 1961, Riggs graduated from Laguna Beach High School, allegedly dissatisfied with the JFK assassination, and this led him to India. After having spent 18 months in India, Big Rig ordered Dr. Richard Alpert of Harvard University, that's Ram Dass, to meet with him and to meet this guru. Alpert, under the name Ram Dass, would spend the rest of his life promoting Reem, while Big Rock took the handle Bhagavan Das. What was going on? Both men described their first meeting in their respective autobiographies. In Alpert's claim, he met Riggs in Kathmandu through a beautiful Indian sculptor named Harish, who bought the boy Riggs to Alpert's palatial hotel, where they did drugs for a few days. Da 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 blah blah. Riggs, in his autobiography, however, says Harish introduced him to a bunch of squares in Hashish Cafe. Riggs said that prior to the introduction, he had already heard of Leary and Alpert because they had LSD and everybody wanted to try it. Yeah, they had LSD from the universities, from the CIA. You remember, how are they getting these drugs? How are they getting them? I guess they could make them in a bathtub. Likely they're getting it from some supply. Some scientist, some laboratory, right? So who are these intellectual drug wizards below? You can see the photographs of David and Richard in 1967 and again in 88. Richard Alpert is the son of prominent Boston lawyer. We already went through that. Let's see. Here we go. David Padwa, he becomes important in this. His religious upbringing is political Judaism. David Padwa, that's this other guy that gets involved with this whole scenario, was born in New York City, and in his own word, he's from a Jewish rabbinical family. Okay, these guys are probably Zionists. David served as a director for the Rothschilds biotechnology investments after finding Neem. Okay, so David goes and finds Neem. This is the guy who named Ram Dass. He's working for the Rothschilds. In the late 2000s, the Rothschilds began to heavily invest in Brazilian farmland alongside George Soros and Indian vegetable growing for European markets, controlling key points for the global food supply, from seed to shelf. Alpert and Padwa, that's that David guy, were well-connected men. And in 1969, the Harvard Crimson student newspaper was already trying to immortalize the dubious encounter between them. That's the whole thing. The real stuff is gritty. People write a fantasy. So there's a link with the Rothschilds through this David guy. David and Albert. It's just so crazy. Kermit Michael Riggs, that's the first guy, got sucked into an operation around Allen Ginsberg, who was recruiting malleable people on the peripheries of drug experimentation led by the CIA executive Sidney Gottlieb. You know that? Totally an MK Ultra. Ginsberg began the recruiting around 1961 through beat poet groomers like Gregory Corso, Ram Zimardi. It's just 6 degrees of separation. It's really crazy. They got into Black Power groups. They got everywhere. Scroll down a little bit here. Same with the New Age music. The ancient wife slaving port of Sigmund Freud's in-laws. Sigmund Freud's in-laws had slaves. They were Zios. A superfluity of Indian and American gurus inspired a strong cultural backlash from Athonite writers. The gurus, the young man, the elders, just sorry if I'm skipping around here. This just goes in so many different you can see the people that Ginsburg was a cheerleader for Timothy Leary, Richard Alpert in their quest to legitimize recreational psychedelic use. And Ginsburg is associate with a CIA guy, um, and what's his name there that we just talked about. In Ginsburg's own word, his goal was influencing the intellectual tone of the West. The way to achieve his goal was through social dislocation via drug use. So basically, he wants to take people out of their healthy homes and connections with their original religion and have them disassociate, which is going to cause tons and tons of trauma. There's no way that it isn't. Here we go. The money and political power for this cultural shift came out of Canada and the old OSS network. The point man for the Canadian OSSers was a uranium merchant named L. Hubbard. Psychiatrists in Canadian universities, including McGill, worked with Hubbard to give poorly understood psychedelics to their patients. So you see, there's all these degrees of separation. Now, Ram Dass he promotes it like it's a therapeutic thing. But there's nothing therapeutic about the stuff that they were doing to people at all. There's just nothing therapeutic. You can go. By the way, McGill University is where Jordan Peterson went. Everybody's favorite wackadoodle psychiatrist from Canada, Jordan Peterson, was schooled in McGill. That doesn't mean he was part of MK Ultra, but or anything like that. But I certainly don't doubt that he was involved in globalism and the World Economic Forum. He wrote a lot of narratives for them and how to control the population to accept this globalist crap. This article goes into it at some pretty interesting levels. I can't get through all of it. I mean, it's long. She has done an amazing amount of research into everything that was going around. It gets into Japan. It goes all over the place. I gotta get screaming up here. But this idea that they're doing the therapeutics simply for the drugs simply for therapeutics, I think is a cover. And I imagine that the CIA would want this in the realms of not just therapy, but they will want this in the realms of how can they control people's minds? Can they control what people believe? How can they control people's connection to God or what they perceive as God? Or can they replace that connection? Could they put themselves as that voice that then instructs people what to believe? When we go into Jim Jones next Sunday, you're going to hear how Jim Jones made sure his voice stayed in people's heads. Repetition, Project Monarch, all that stuff is about mind control. And at the end of the day, when you're trying to control somebody's mind, you're influencing them for your outcome. You have an outcome, you have whatever, if it's financial, whatever it is, you are trying to control the mass of populations to achieve that. And these are the ways that they find to do that. And psychedelics, not only were they about controlling someone's mind or getting them to tell the truth, it's about reprogramming their personalities. Remember, Ram Dass particularly focused on personalities and how they developed. And that was an essential part of MK Ultra, because with MK Ultra, you're watching how personalities get formed naturally, but then you're also trying to break it up and put in the personality you want, so you can make like a sleeper cell or somebody that will do your work or someone that's fearless, an agent that you can send out. That's part of MK Ultra. And so I can't remember. I'll tell you, and I'll read their clip. They really asked me to do this, and I feel so sorry that, but I just want to say this, guys, that most of the 60s counterculture was you being screwed over. A big giant psyop. I know nobody likes to hear that, but it really, really was. Let's see, community. Oh, never mind. I hope he comes along and sees this show because I did this just for him. I wasn't gonna do Ram Dass, but what I found was really interesting. And that Ram Dass really woo! It is just phenomenal how this goes in every different direction. Let's see what they say, because I'm sure it's here. We're gonna view it all. No post. Whoa. There we go. It's probably under the video for Can we see into the future? I'm sure we can. Yeah, I think it's under the Alan Watts one. Gabriel Light Traveler said, do one about Ram Dass. If he wasn't clean, then I give up. Oh, and what about Shad Guru's ability and advice to sleep 3 hours a night? Okay. I'll answer that question for you now, Gabriel. Ram Dass isn't clean. No human being is. Don't ever believe that. We'll get into a video clip of him pretending he's so pious. And one of the ways that people will control you is by controlling your sleep. So when someone tells you that that they're an authority and you need 3 hours of sleep and you're trying to push that on yourself and your body's saying no, listen to your body. Get 7 or 8 hours. Don't listen to the quack telling you to get 3 hours. Fuck him. That's all I can say. And Ram Dass is not clean. He's got links to CIA all over him. He's definitely linked to professors who were doing MK Ultra. His Hello, Woo Rider. You guys are gonna have to rewatch it. We have 45 minutes of me telling y'all about Ram Dass, and it's disturbing. And he's definitely linked to the CIA. Remember his what would you call it? His mentor. His mentor was highly linked to MK Ultra, and his mentor's mentor was the one who was performing a lot of these experiments, psilocybin on undergraduates. Just there's so many people, and a lot of the documents were destroyed, so we're never going to have it all. And they can just reframe it as therapeutic psilocybin treatments for your PTSD. All the PTSD we caused because we're a psychotic nation, we're going to give you some mushrooms to help treat that. Instead of actually providing a stable economy for you and no more wars in a country that you can live in where there's no drugs all over and you don't have to have PTSD, we'll just drug you up instead. And I think we're looking at this kind of structure that is not holistic and doesn't see everything as connected. Ooh, we're gonna get into the Clintons. We're gonna hill and bill it in the second half of this show, Woo Dog Writer. Maybe they'll be asked about Frazzledrip, and we'll talk about Frazzledrip. But we're getting it. We're gonna finish up Ram Dass, take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into Frazzle Dazzle Drip, adrenochrome, and where that came from. Maybe they may not ask them about Frazzledrip, but they're gonna. Yeah, this I don't know if this is a distraction or what's going on, but it yikes, it's gonna be interesting. It will be interesting to see what goes on with that. So now I'm losing my mark here. He's in India. The interesting thing to know about this is I'm trying to decipher whether this Neem fellow in India was controlling Ram Dass Or was Ram Dass controlling him, or was there this symbiotic thing? Like he was a replacement for this colonel that he was at, because it is Neem that allegedly, now this could be myth, gave Richard Alpert his new identity. And I find that really strange, and I find that interesting, because this is what cult leaders do. You want to be enlightened, you want to be wise, you want to be, holier than thou. They give you a new identity. They will take away your old identity and name, and they'll give you a new one. That's really dangerous. I find the minute I see someone who's doing that, I'm very concerned about renaming, special handshakes, just things that feel really childish to me. If somebody wanted to change my name, I would be like, "Fuck you. That's my name's Melissa. Get lost." Like that, there would be no other question about it. So I'm trying to understand if it was like symbiotic or what's going on, and that was difficult to find, because like I said, Neem, Baba Yaba, whatever his real name is, he's got multiple names. Neem Karoli Baba, that's his full name. We're calling him Neem. He bestows this new identity. So he literally goes there, kind of gets Christian. But I could imagine, just like the author of The Exorcist, William Peter Blatty, went over for the CIA, and he had, like, because he was Lebanese, he had that kind of into that culture. I could imagine that the CIA may have had some kind of communication after kicking them out of Harvard, may have said, "Hey, we got the deal for you. You're going to go over there and you're going to investigate this stuff, and you're going to do some work for us." Because one of the criteria that is going on here with the CIA and the East is it was really hard for them to break apart Hinduism. And so one of the ways I think that they're going about it is they're trying to get into breaking up India, breaking up Hinduism with a combination of sex, magic stuff, and drugs. They're trying to insert that into the ritual. So if this Neem guy was in with that colonel, there's a chance that he was in with other people as well. And this was a whole concoction to try to also shift the culture over in India. I don't have absolute proof of that, but I suspect it. And let's see. And we're going to watch. We'll go. Let me see if I can check this one out. Then we'll watch a clip, and then we'll go look at the founders. And I want to look at how Ram Dass has influenced the technocrats in Silicon Valley. And we know Silicon Valley is quite attached to the CIA. In fact, the CIA probably created it all. The military. The military and the CIA. Okay. So here we go. This talks about how Christian missionaries routinely attacked Hindu beliefs by attacking Krishna, and they had a big problem getting Jesus in there and attacking their gods and Krishna and stuff like that. So it says, in 1963 to 64, which is just before Ram Dass goes to India, Wendy Doniger had been sent to India on a $6,000 fellowship, which was a lot of money in those days, to the American Institute of Indian Studies, which would eventually become known as a CIA front. So there's already a CIA front in India called the American Institute of Indian Studies. So she was set up there. The U.S. had set up many front organizations in academia as part of the National Defense Act of 1958. And this American Institution of Indian Studies was one. It's just like when America sets up Sesame Street in Iraq. It's not for Sesame Street, I can guarantee you. The links of this AIIS to the intelligence community was very strong during the days of Wendy Donner's association. Its director was Richard D. Lambert, who had been stationed in India as part of counterintelligence department during the Second World War. He was succeeded by Thomas Simons, who was also part of the intelligence community, who headed the South Asian branch of the office in the U.S. Department of State. A key member of the founding group of AISS was also Richard Park, who went on to become the India Scholar of AIIS. Despite earlier denials, it was revealed in 1967, that's the year that Richard Alpert or Ram Dass goes there, that the Asia Foundation had received funds from the CIA and it had in turn funneled money to Indian groups in the guise of funding cultural and educational programs. This revelation led to an outcry in the Indian parliament and the role of AIIS and other groups. Even the journalist seminar, which was published by the brother of Marxist Professor Romiliev, devoted an entire issue to the topic of academic colonism. Indira Gandhi's government asked the Asia Foundation to cease its operation and leave India. One of the projects that was terminated by the Indian government was based in the Himalayan foothills, and its personal collection information on land ownership and the political situation in both India and Nepal. Now, we know this did not stop any of the technocrats or any people going there. So they get kicked out. So maybe it would be of pertinence to have some lone American pretend he's there for spiritual guidance to kind of go in there, connect with this Neem guy who's a Brahmin who likes money and influence things, and therefore influence things back in America as well. Kind of went both ways. I think they're talking about how Gandhi was really created here too. It gets crazy. So there was tons of CIA in there, and they, from what I can understand, that Ram Dass is kind of carrying out that idea of connecting drugs with spirituality, with a connection to the divine, which you don't need. He's and this kind of connection of sex. If you can connect drugs and sex into the culture and mix it in with spirituality and politics, you can kind of break it up and take control over it. And my suspicion is if he was doing that, that could have been his purpose. Oh, Woo Rider says, I helped my good friend book for his podcast. You should be a guest. You might know him already. He hasn't been around for years. Same type of podcast phenomenon stuff. Yeah, well, okay. I'll pop something up. You can always oh, it's not up there. It's Melissa. I'll pop my email up here so you can see it. Melissa D. Harris 77 at gmail.com. I'll pop it up on screen. There it is. Anyone can contact me at Melissa D. Harris 77 at gmail.com. Go ahead. I don't know if I know your friend or not. I don't know who it is, but feel free to give him my email at melissadharris77 at gmail.com. Thank you so much for that. Peter Thiel was a handler for a bunch of big name politicians that went to Ivy League schools. Absolutely. Absolutely, including the vice president. But this stuff, it just shows you how that not only are there gurus there in their religion, the CIA is creating gurus. They're creating people to infiltrate and act as these figures that bring down the independent politicians and government in these countries. And I'm sure that's what Gandhi was all about. 1966, the Secretary of State Warren Christopher created the Advisory Committee of Religious Freedom Abroad. You know, they always have these names that sound good, but they're always nefarious. That committee was packed with Christians and had Jewish and Muslim representation while having no Hindu on its clear message, and that its purpose was to facilitate effective partnership to propagate Christianity around the world by primarily targeting India. So it's interesting. I find it hard, guys, to believe that he was opposed to this, considering that he was in with a lot of these experimentations. He had his doctorate in psychology. He studied personality development. He's, wrote books on parenting. I just find it really hard to believe that this guy was neutral and good and all about spirituality. And the fact that he goes there, changes his name, has a new identity, is now up with this Neem fellow who seems very shifty and has worked with the British. Now he's working with the Americans. It just sounds to me like he could be a sellout, and he's all about the moolah. I mean, he little sociopath wanted to raise a military against his own country, I guess. Didn't like those other Brahmins. Just all around nefarious stuff. Let's check out a video of Ram Dass, and then we'll get into some of his financial people. And you guys will have to draw your own conclusion. But I've always said on this show that you can just simply fold your towels and do something mundane and get to that calm place and have a spiritual kind of connection. You don't need all this stuff. Con men want you to believe all this stuff. Con men do. Con man. Let's see what we got for you guys here. Let's see. Here we go. If it will load, we'll be listening.
I give the CIA a total credit for sponsoring and initiating the entire consciousness movement, counterculture events of the 1960s.
I think that was Timothy Leary, and I don't think some people think they did. They sponsored it by accident. I don't think it was an accident. I think it was quite intentional. It may not have turned out exactly how they want it, but it was intentional.
History will judge the role of the CIA and other intelligence agencies in unwittingly contributing to the counterculture of the 60s.
Well, because this is a radio show.
I give the CIA a total credit.
It wasn't unwittingly, definitely.
The entire consciousness.
History will judge the role of the CIA and other intelligence agencies in unwittingly contributing to the counterculture of the 60s.
Well, because this is a radio show where we play music and stuff like that, I am focusing on culture creation from that aspect. Timothy Leary, talking about psychedelics, the CIA's involvement in the counterculture, giving birth to the whole hippie movement, and massaging it with some fantastic LSD. My dear friends, enjoy.
Millions of dollars would be spent on LSD research at universities throughout the country. And word would begin to spread on campus about this so-called mind-blowing drug. And suddenly, there was the counterculture of the 60s.
I give this.
You're like, what's the purpose of that? The purpose of that is to detract from the anti-war people. It's to control the narrative and turn it into chaos. So it just looks like a bunch of drug addicts and no one takes it seriously. I just want you to listen to Ram Dass. I want you. We're going to hear his voice because I'm suspicious about people who are constantly pious and putting on this pious look. I am always suspicious of them, unless he's totally brain fried on acid. Let's see.
What are you worried about the future for? You can't even be in the present.
See, okay. I get the idea. I understand the idea of you only have now and there's nothing else, but we in this round we know we can plan for the future by taking or preserving things for today that we can relatively have a general plan. So I always get suspicious when people question things like this and pretend they're enlightened. Like, what are you worried about the future? Well, because I could be homeless. Like there might be some legit things to worry about. Okay, I don't recommend you worry all the time, but people could have legitimate concerns.
Because if you're in the present moment, that's the best preparation you can do for being in the future, for whatever the future will hold.
That part makes sense. That part makes sense. To prepare for the future by being present. That makes sense. But if anyone ever tells you just be in the now, don't worry about anything, be suspicious. So I actually agree with Rami Dasi on that one.
If you're living right here consciously, That's the optimum strategy for preparing for the future. What are you worried about the future for? You don't even...
Okay, so that's Ram Dass. What you worried about? What you talking about, Willis? Now we're gonna get into the major donors. Very important part. And again, just like last time when we talked about the Unification Church, which is the Moonies, that the Mellon family was involved in that, they show up here. Peggy Hitchcock is a Mellon. She's a Mellon head. Okay, and the Mellon family is prominent American banking and industrial dynasty. Originated in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with a fortune initiated by Irish immigrant Thomas Mellon. This woman here, Peggy Mellon Hitchcock, is a Mellon. Okay? She's born on June 29th, 1933 in Manhattan. Third of 5 children. Her mother was Margaret, and she was the daughter of William Larmer Mellon, a founder of Gulf Oil, and her father, Thomas Hitchcock Jr., served as lieutenant colonel in World War II before dying in a training accident in England when she was 10. She was educated at the Berkeley School in Manhattan, Miss Porter School in Farmington, Connecticut. Her initial influence was in the 1960s counterculture scene, notably through her financial support of a summer program in Mexico organized by Timothy Leary and Richard Alpert. And I'm always suspicious when people are organizing stuff in Mexico, in foreign countries, because a lot of times cults will go do things in foreign countries because they can get away with more in South America or Mexico. So the minute I read that, I was super suspicious, but she funded that. She's one of the funders. It was, a psychedelic summer camp. It's like you see all these people go out in South America and do ayahuasca. I'm suspicious of that as well. Apparently, this psychedelic summer camp was done when they were at Harvard before they got booted out. Hitchcock's brothers, Billy and Tommy, acquired 2,500-acre property in Millbrook, New York, leasing a large mansion at minimal cost to Leary, who converted it into a center for psychedelic research. Excuse me. Hitchcock divided her time between Park Avenue and later residents in Manhattan, later referenced in Charles Mingus' song, Peggy's Blue Skylight. Peggy's Blue Skylight, huh? Millbrook property, observing key events. Following the fragmentation of the Millbrook community, Hitchcock continued to shape her diverse legacy. She maintained an intermittent relationship with Leary and subsequently began partnership with journalist Walter Bower, relocating him to Arizona. Arizona is filled with drug deals, chaos, money laundering, think TPUSA. She was also in with the Dalai Lama. We don't have time to get in with the Dalai Lama eventually, so she goes from Ram Dass to Dalai Lama, where she embraced Buddhism. She supported Tibetan causes. She contributed to the Bet House in Manhattan. And you don't know, because there was a lot of contention with Tibet and resistance of Tibet with the CIA. I don't know if that was her, if they're doing this to try to get into Tibet, or they're trying to break up the resistance by infiltrating the religion. It's hard to know because there's so much convoluted clusterfuck, for the lack of a better word. She just died in 2024, I believe. I think so, yeah. I think she just died, but she was the major funder, and of course, the other Mellons had funded other people like Alan Watts. They were big into this psychedelic counterculture thing, and that counterculture was really being pushed by the CIA. I don't have her at a direct link, but that is who Peggy Mellon is. Cody Swift, he had the River Styx Foundation. Wayne Dyer. Now, I know a lot about Wayne Dyer. I've listened to a lot of his book. He was actually an orphan, which made me totally suspicious that he was MK Ultra. he wrote books for Hayes House and basically talked a lot of woo-woo. But the most interesting one was Steve Jobs. He was a huge purveyor of Ram Dass, and so was Mark Zuckerberg. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of nonprofits, Ram Dass. A lot of nonprofits. Heifer Research Institute. Like, they're always starting these ranches, these day camps, these nonprofits, these research institutions all over the place. And maybe these kind of small institutions were part of the MK Ultra research, pretending to be something else. That's commonly what they did. And I think they were doing it all over. But the Steve Jobs thing was really interested. They're saying he's not documented as a primary donor to his foundations. Job created the book Be Here Now, with Transforming him contributing significantly to the book's widespread commercial success, with funded Ram Dass's later projects. Now I had some stuff about Apple and Steve Jobs. There was something really, I think it was in this other article here. Let me go find, but there was something very strange that happened between Steve Jobs and Robert Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's, apparently her real name is Ghislaine. We're going to call her Ghislaine Maxwell. Her father had a run-in with Steve Jobs and Apple. And the run-in was not necessarily with Steve Jobs, but his founders, his backer-uppers. And he's Silicon Valley and with Apple, and I'm going to assume his backers are in with military and other banks and stuff. I don't know for sure. But there was a court case over the name Apple. And Steve Jobs and his founders and all that stuff, his backers, took Robert Maxwell to court, and they won. So they could use the name Apple. And then, of course, Robert Maxwell ends up bye-bye, which is interesting. I'm going to see. There's a little bit of Epstein here. Here we go. The opera. He fell, right. He died in 91 after falling from a yacht. But there was something, and I had it here, and I don't think, maybe nobody decided to write it down. I'm going to have to look through that article, but there was something about, it wasn't Steve Jobs who went after him. It was some kind of financial backers, and they wanted the name of Apple or something like that. I've got to find it because I know I had it here. I know I had it. It's just so convoluted. And remember, one of the things that had been mentioned, like all of these missionaries all over the world going to spread Christianity, CIA, evangelical, CIA, LDS. The LDS church was infiltrated by the CIA. They were hugely important because they had missionaries. That's a really good way to spread Christianity, even though it may not be your my preferred version of it, but it's all connected. It's all psyops across the world. And so if they're not spreading that, they're going to spread other Western values. They're going to spread transgenderism. They'll have tranny Sesame Street, teaching the children all this really crazy stuff. I'm sure it was in this article. I'm going to have to find it because it was, when I read it, I almost couldn't believe that somehow Robert Maxwell was infiltrated. The important part of this, the interesting part about these guys that are influenced by Ram Dass, is it influences how they approach technology. And a lot of these kind of narcissistic types that are in these oh, here it is. I found it. I'll tell you in a sec. A lot of these narcissistic types that are starting these companies, they're arrogant because they know they're backed up by big powers. My guess is the military created most of Silicon Valley. But here they are. They'll take all these ideas. They'll take all of these caste system perspectives from India, and they'll infiltrate that in their company. And I often wonder when you see Steve Jobs, and he had weird behaviors. Like he would have times where he would just eat strawberries for weeks. Just they had these weird behaviors of reducing everything to the simplest and living without nothing. That sort of, you'll have nothing and be happy kind of thing. And I always wonder how much this stuff is in this religious stuff, this created stuff by the CIA and the Ram Dasses have influenced how technology is operating in the concepts of AI. It's really disturbing. So here it is. Okay, I'm going to read this to you guys. We're not going to switch to the screen. I'll just read it. This is about the Apple thing and Maxwell. I think it's Maxwell. She says, today I'm going to talk about a guru conspicuously absent from the Sgt. Pepper cover, Neem Karoli Baba, born Lakshman Narayan Sharma. Family. He was born near the border, near Nepal. I think it's something timed out there. Oh, it just switched scenes. That's really weird. That's bizarre that it just did that switch. There we go. Now, all by itself, it's like it's possessed. All right. Within 25 years, Neem was being promoted via a CIA-adjacent ex-Harvard professor named Richard Alpert, named Ram Dass by Fairy Baba. This matters because we are now looking at Steve Jobs' side of the Apple Corp legal debacle. Readers may remember that in 1976, Steve Jobs stole the Beatles holding company's name, Apple. Apple Corp was allied with the Galatian gang via business associates of Robert Maxwell. That didn't matter. Jobs won every legal case, or should I say, Jobs' financial backers won every legal case, and Maxwell ended up floating in the Atlantic Ocean. Stay useful. So, wow. Steve Jobs and his wingman, Larry Brilliant, stole other things from the Beatles besides the name Apple. They ripped off the Fab Four's Guru accessory too. Silicon Valley's Guru was Neem Karoli Baba, a fat reincarnation of the monkey lord Hanuman, who was recruited in 1939, like we said, by Colonel J.C. McKenna of the Imperial British Rajput Regiment Center in Fatehgarh, a Cantonment town near Uttar Pradesh, India. It's crazy, the links there. So remember this when we're on our phones, that these guys were affiliates with Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was all into this. I don't know the depths. I'm not trying to say they were doing child trafficking or anything like that. We're going to be into child trafficking after the break here. But it's interesting how he ended up floating. A lot of people blame Mossad for that because he was a Mossad agent. And if he was a Mossad agent and Steve Jobs was able to win and do all this stuff, you got to wonder who's double aging it. Like what's really going on here behind the scenes? It's very suspicious stuff. I'm going to give you guys this link to this article because it's a long read, but it's a good read. And if you have time, you should go check it out. Go check it out. But yeah, that is where it was. Steve Jobs was stealing a lot from other people, and he won everything in court. And I think he won because he had the military and some serious financial backers behind him. And Robert Maxwell, obviously his time was tick tock, it was running out. Now, I don't think that he died because of this instance, because this would have happened in the later 70s. But he eventually became unpreferred, and they used him up and got rid of him. And now his daughter's in. We know what's happened with his daughter, but there's just, it's so convoluted, and you see what I mean by the clusterfuck and what we have to go through. It's just so convoluted. It is absolutely bizarre. But like I said, Steve Jobs would go on to promote this kind of guru stuff that is highly tied to CIA stuff. And I don't believe that any kind of Silicon Valley major company creator, major purveyor of technology or social media, I don't believe that they're not either put there by the military or CIA. I just wouldn't believe it. Mm. And Steve Jobs died young as well. Here we go. Here it is. Steve Jobs held his top secret security clearance in the late 1980s while at the Next and Pixar, according to FBI files released in 2012. Department of Defense documents. The clearance was related to potential military intelligence agency interest in using the Pixar image computer for processing satellite imagery and reconnaissance data. He had top secret clearance, military intelligence interaction, and FBI background check. 1985 bomb threat. They investigated an extortion attempt against Apple involving threats of a bomb, as noted on the 2012 documents release. Jobs did not serve in the military, but he was known for a counterculture, anti-establishment attitude, just like Ram Dass. His professional endeavors with Pixar led to formal top-level clearance and engagement. Remember, a lot of this technology is military technology. This stuff is all linked at all different levels. Mind control involves all of this stuff, working with cults, working with these leaders, using psychedelics, using technologies to survey areas, developing technologies for further and further control over the population to, whether it's to dominate a land, get the resources, it's all connected. And Steve Jobs definitely was connected. We know Elon Musk is connected. The stuff I'm using right now, we're streaming now. They can see all of it. They can see absolutely all of it. So I'm going to let you draw your conclusions about Ram Dass. But I would definitely not say he was a pious, innocent guru who just cared about humanity. I would say he had some, at minimal, nefarious influences that influenced how he operated. At maximum, that he was actually in with the CIA, that he was actually carrying out some secret experimentation on behalf of the CIA, or funded, because the CIA sets up fake fronts all over the place, and they set out lone people. Like I've told you before, the author William Blatty, he was in as a psychologist and doing mind kind of psychological warfare out on foreign nations. That's why he was sent abroad. And then he came and wrote The Exorcist. It's, again, more religious control, more controlling Americans through fear of religious stuff. Just, it's all intertwined. And observe, don't absorb. Observe, don't absorb. And remember, any of these leaders that were famous, any of these major people out in the pop culture, you've got to approach them with a level of suspect. And you can start easy. Go look at their names, their births, the schools they went to, look at who funded them and their associations, see if they didn't go to school, if they had a criminal record, see if they could have been recruited from a prison. That happens. Financial backers are really important. Go put all those clues together and you'll find out probably a lot about your everyday gurus that you think are trying to help you. They may now, once they're past their use, maybe they are. Maybe they're doing spiritual stuff and they're trying to help you, but they could also be controlling the population and keeping you busy with some crazy stuff. Oh, I know you guys want to do Frazzledrip. I want to talk about Frazzledrip because this is the craziest stuff that's going on. I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff with the Epstein files that came out, but I'm starting to lose my voice, so we do have to take a little break. I don't think there's anything. If I do have something more to say on Hamdas, I'm sure it will pop up. But we do have to take a little break. It's going to be about 5 minutes. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, you're going to want to nudge it up about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm going to disappear. A little background music is going to come. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about the fabulous Bill and Hill, the Frazzledrip stuff, the adrenochrome, and the Epstein files to finish off the show for the week. So hang tough here, and we will get everything going. Let's pop me back here. And let's go for a nice background, and then we'll put some music, and I will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here. We are back after the intermission. Gotta let the little doggos out to go to the bathroom. My computer seems to be glitching a little bit, so I apologize if anything's glitching. But this gets into the fun part of the show where we get to update you on Epstein stuff. I actually did a video of it on my other channel, and no one seems to be interested on the other channel. Maybe they just want me to talk about being old and 50. Maybe that's my job over there. Since it is called Breaking 50, we'll see how it goes. This is the good channel where we've got the juice, though. This is where we got the stuff. And we're going to turn that music off there so you can hear everything nice and clear. One of the things I forgot to tell you about Ram Dass is currently he has a Lama Foundation. He's passed away, but the Lama Foundation runs in his name. You can go find it at lamafoundation.org and look at its history. All these people, you notice they're like, hey, my name's Steve, and I'm founding the Lama Foundation, and now I'm known as Noruddin Baba Gama or something. They all changed their name. It's like they're trying to deny their identity, like it's so horrible. And I don't know that this seems to be some kind of weird mind control that they're doing on themselves. I don't know, but yeah, it runs. And I mean, they don't use drugs apparently there. They do meditation. You have to be, marital fidelity. So there's a lot of good things that they promote there, but it's interesting. I am always suspicious of any kind of organizations like that are bizarre. And speaking of bizarre stuff that you should be suspicious of, we're going to get into the Frazzledrip. And maybe you're thinking, what is that? So for major conspiracy theorists, they're going to know exactly what the Frazzledrip is. And the name Frazzledrip came from an alleged video file that was supposed to be on Anthony Weiner's laptop. And that in that file was called frazzledrip.zip. This is alleged. People are saying it's made up conspiracy, it's all crazy, but it so ties into this Epstein stuff that we're getting revealed to us that it's hard to think it's not a leap and a jump to think maybe it wasn't a conspiracy, maybe it's legit. So apparently what they say on this frazzledrip.zip, there's a video of Hillary and Huma Abedin. Huma Abedin, by the way, is now married to George Soros' son. Just so you know, the link's there. She's now married to him. And apparently there's a video of her and Hillary. I think she was like Hillary's aide or something like that at the time. They're wearing child's faces, the skin of child's faces as a mask, and drinking blood to consume adrenochrome. That's the declaration of and where the term Frazzledrip came from. And as you know, we're going to pop in and we're going to look at my article on adrenochrome, just so we can talk about what adrenochrome is. The word grape soda appears in the Epstein files over and over again, multiple times in tangent with pizza. Pizza is supposed to refer to pedo or a girl, child. And they say that grape soda is possibly referring to adrenochrome because apparently it takes on like a violet or purple color when you harvest it. They don't actually harvest it out of the blood. The theory is that they do torture and terror and all this horrible stuff to the children, and that it gets produced in the blood. And then they drink the blood. Well, it's in the blood. They don't actually extract it. And so let's go into my article. We're going to talk about, because a lot of people will say adrenochrome, it doesn't happen like that. That's not true. And adrenochrome is real. But we're going to go into my article here because we're going to talk about exactly what adrenochrome is, because I cover it. I'm going to give you guys this link. You can go to this for free on my Substack. And don't forget, you can subscribe. Everything's free on there right now. Here we go. Except there is a section for paid members that's still not free, so you won't get access to that, but you will get access to the adrenochrome article. And so what is adrenochrome? Why is it important? So I wrote, with the advancement of science has come the discovery of the body's intricate components, its chemicals, functions, and structures. While these elements may seem new to us, they have always existed within us, cloaked in mystery. Take adrenochrome, for example. This naturally occurring biomolecule was first observed as early as 1856 by French neurologist Alfred Vulpian, who also identified adrenaline. It wasn't until 1937 that researchers David Ezra Green and Derek Richter at the University of Cambridge formally named adrenochrome and documented its isolation. According to ACS Chemical Life, adrenochrome is an unstable molecule with no practical uses. But there is a stabilized derivative. It's called carbazochrome. That one is what they can use. So when people say adrenochrome and they officially say, oh, there's no use for that, they're not lying. It's actually carbazochrome. That's actually the useful component. It is said to promote blood clotting and has been used medically to treat hemorrhaging. Adrenochrome is also classified as a chiral molecule, meaning it is a non-superimposed mirror image. So none of it mirrors each other. You can't lay it over top of each other. It's not identical. In simpler terms, this means that no matter how you rotate or flip the molecule, it cannot be perfectly aligned with its mirror image. A useful analogy is put your hands together. They won't be exact. Finger will be bigger than the other, but they look like they mirror each other. Adrenochrome, when chemically processed, appears as a crystalline purple powder, hence grape soda. On its own, it's highly unstable, largely due to the chiral molecule structure that it doesn't mirror and match up, and therefore considered impractical. This instability is one reason skeptics dismiss the idea that the elites are harvesting this compound from trafficked children. But in this article, we're going to look deeper. So they're saying it's QAnon. We know, look, we've got these Epstein stuff. We know they're torturing. They'll probably still say it's not for that. It's because they're sickos. But through my research, elite blue bloods, Hollywood A-listers, and much more, scientists, politicians, it goes all over the place. They abduct and torture children to extract adrenochrome from their blood. It becomes clear that this narrative predates QAnons by decades and decades. So QAnon didn't make it up. QAnon could be a psyop as well to divert people from certain real elements of this. The primary argument against it is that it's unstable, right? Because it's instability. But perhaps the real question isn't whether adrenochrome itself is viable. It's this: where did the theory originate and why was this particular compound chosen as a focal point? Was the term adrenochrome simply adopted because it sounds marketable, sinister, and mysterious? Could there still be a hidden process, ritualistic or chemical, that compels psychopaths to torture victims in pursuit of something within the blood? Something useful or euphoric to them, even if the critics are laughing at the wrong name? Or is it truly a drug that has no use? So here's where the magic comes. According to researcher Richard Rajote, adrenochrome was used in 1939 to jumpstart a frog's heart. It brought it literally back from the dead. In 1946 Belgian study, the compound was used to reverse frostbite in a rabbit's ear. So it's been tested. It's doing stuff. It's having good results. So, and it's remarkable results. So I could see the elites being like, hey, we want that shit. Adrenochrome also appears in the 1962 novel A Clockwork Orange, where it's referenced as a hallucinogen, which it's not. The movies give it a mythology. It's not. It actually has some substance attested to it. And like I said, when you go from adrenochrome to that carbazochrome, it becomes more stable and more useful. So who knows? Maybe they can do stuff to it. One of the resources I referenced above is an article by Joe Schwartz of McGill University. He's skeptical, but it was McGill University that played the central role in MK Ultra experiments in the 50s and 60s in Canada. So we got that one. It's totally attached to ancient rituals of blood sacrifice. And if you guys looked into and listened to a lot of the stuff with the Epstein files, that's exactly what they're doing. Now, I'm hearing people go on about Luciferian this and satanic that. Take the labels out of it, because Lucifer actually referred to the morning star, which was the planet Venus. A lot of the terms that you see in the Christian Bible got used out of context and totally twisted over time, and that's not their pagan original meaning. Take everything away. Stop looking at pagan people and, oh my God, they're demons. Instead, look at an elite group of people that want you to look at pagans that were just trying to make their crops grow and shit. They want you to look over there instead of at this elite bloodline that, for some reason, has to survive off of torturing people, and particularly children, because there's some kind of essence. They believe there's something to children. When they say virgin sacrifice, they mean children. And there's something to these children and the way their minds are and where their youthfulness and how much adrenochrome they can produce. And I think they're easier to terrorize. For sure, for sure. And they take this crazy route to get this adrenochrome. Now, could it heal them? Could it keep them young? Yes, but it's almost like a high. It's I wouldn't know personally because I don't run around torturing children, but it's almost like it's a crazy high that these people are getting. And so now we enter the Epstein files. And then we can realize that all this stuff about the laptop with the Frazzledrip video that everyone was laughing at, all its conspiracy theories saying we're crazy, it doesn't exist, could be possible. The problem is that laptop, anyone who's seen that laptop apparently was horrified by what was on it, allegedly. All those people are dead. From what I understand, they're gone. And the only one that's still alive that saw that laptop is Sydney. Oh, what's her name? She was a lawyer. She did that, release the Kraken stuff and the Donald Trump stuff. Her first name is Sydney. But she's one of the only ones alive who I believe has seen that that laptop and what was on Anthony Weiner's laptop. And that's kind of how Hillary comes into it. And if it might not be Hillary that's on it, it could be a whole bunch of other people. I'll get you her name. Sidney Powell was on it. They did an investigation into his illicit messages with a minor. There was approximately 650,000 emails, including thousands linked to Huma Abedin's work as top aide to Hillary Clinton. The FBI discovered these messages searching for evidence of sexual misconduct, revealing potential non-duplicate or classified information related to Clinton's private email scandal. So that was the whole email thing. And they were looking for sexual content because he had these inappropriate sort of goings on with a minor. But some people are saying it's much twisted. No, I don't know. We don't have anything that says that, but we have the Epstein files that are looking pretty atrocious. Atrocious as in medical experimentation. We have Epstein saying that he wanted to alter the human DNA, that they put girls in cage, that they're torturing them, that they're eating out of human intestines, that they're possibly making snuff films with girls that as they get older and they feel they're not useful anymore. And when I say snuff films, I mean like lighting girls on fire in the film and filming it for sexual pleasure. Like that extreme. Cutting them up. So, very twisted stuff, very real torture scenes, very crazy stuff. So it's not hard to believe a hop and a skip that this Anthony Weiner guy, who's a real douchebag, could be connected to that. Let's see if he was mentioned in the Epstein files. Yeah, we know his sexting scandal. I don't see anything about him being in the Epstein files. Right. Key findings from the released files: victim blaming emails in messages sent to Epstein in 2016. Sunyi Previn criticized a 15-year-old girl who reported Weiner to the police, calling the minor despicable and disgusting. So it's not Anthony Weiner that's in there. It's Sunyi Previn, this bitch who's married to Woody Allen, who was his daughter. Creepy old thing, who's saying it's disgusting that this was reported. Previn claimed that the teenager reeled him in like a fish. The 15-year-old reeled a powerful and rich guy in. I think Sunyi Previn is projecting. I think Sunyi was the one reeled in by her pervert father when she was a teenager. She expressed sympathy for Weiner, framing him as a victim of manipulation. The email showed that Epstein and Previn discussed high-profile sex scandals and the Me Too movement, with Previn forwarding articles to Epstein that argued the movement had gone too far. The correspondence confirms that Woody Allen and Sunyi Previn maintained social relationship. While Weiner's name appears in these files through third-party discussions, his own legal issues were separate from Epstein's tracking network. He pled guilty in 2017 to transferring obscene materials. Weiner has currently, in 2024 and 2025, attempted a political comeback by filing to run for New York City Council. So you can just do all this stuff and get over it and get into the city council. Yikes. So they're aware of all this stuff. And so I don't have a direct link to the Frazzledrip file, but the Frazzledrip is the same concept as adrenochrome. And we're going to look at an article, and then we got some video, some video footage to kind of go over. But apparently Bill and Hill, and we know Bill liked the girls, and he is definitely in the Epstein files. He'd definitely be in those Epstein files. Bill and Hill may testify. We don't know. They may Frazzledrip their asses up and take some adrenochrome and patch their faces up and actually testify in the Epstein case. And Hillary been talking. Now remember, I think they're all connected. I don't think there's any separation with these people, but Hill and Bill, especially Hillary, I think she still wants to get back at Trump. I think she's going to do it. She's like, look, like what if they testify because this is their final, like, she can't be president anymore. She's getting older. Like, what if this is it? What if Hill wants to, if we can find the article. Oh, Hill, where are you? Man caught sprinkling armpit hair. That's not what we wanted. Here we go. Hillary Clinton discusses horrifying Epstein files at the Munich Security Conference panel. Hillary Clinton has reiterated calls for the full release. She wants it out. She ain't hiding anything. Maybe she's not on it. Maybe Bill is. I don't know. Saying maybe she's like, hey, I'm going to take Bill and Trump down. I hate all these things. I heard she might have been a lesbian, allegedly. Maybe she's like, I'm going to get back at you, Bill, for Monica, and I'm going to get back at you, Trump, for winning the presidency from me. Who knows? This could be what she's up to. But she wants the full release. She says the documents, which could include images of her husband, former U.S. President Bill Clinton, are horrifying. It is something that needs to be totally transparent, Clinton told a panel at the Munich Security Conference on Saturday. That was on Valentine's Day. I've called for many, many years for everything to be put out there. I don't think you have, Hillary. I don't think you have. So people can not only see what's in them, but also, if appropriate, hold people accountable. We'll see what happens. This seems like it might be a little act. I don't know. The former U.S. Secretary of State also pointedly claimed inclusion in the documents was not proof of criminal guilt, which is true. A tranche of files released included images of Bill Clinton in a swimming pool with Jizzy. I don't know why it keeps switching. It just keeps switching. With Ghislaine Maxwell and alongside an identified person in a hot tub. The Clintons have agreed to testify in congressional investigation into Epstein later this month. I might have to live stream that one if I'm not working. Oh, we might have to watch that one. I'm going to look for it. Yeah. So she's all for it. And here's the article where they agree to testify. She's all for finding out what the Frazzledrip really is. Maybe she's at the end of her days and she's like, fuck it. Or she could be representing someone that wants to take people down and out. That's probably more likely. So former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State, have agreed to testify in congressional investigation into the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the question is, will they tell the truth under oath? Because these people lie all the time. They'll lie under oath and nothing will happen. So we'll see. The House of Representatives had been poised to vote this week on holding the couple in contempt for refusing to appear. So that's the thing. When she says she wants everything out, they've also refused to appear. So they're playing a game. A game's being played here. Bill Clinton was acquainted with Epstein, who died in prison. Some say he's still alive, and that he's actually, the dead body of him was actually Hillary's brother. So maybe he's actually alive somewhere. Hillary knows. They popped her brother in there, and she's like, yeah. I'll go in and talk. So on the 27th of February, he will appear for a deposition, and Hillary Clinton will appear the day before. It will be the first time a former U.S. president has testified to congressional panels since Gerald Ford in 1983. The Republican-led House Oversight Committee has asked for the depositions to be filmed and transcribed with no time limits. I think it should be live. Once it became clear that we would hold them in contempt, the Clintons completely caved. So they had to hold them in contempt. So I don't think Hillary's being honest with us. I think she's coming up with a spin. What do you guys think? On Saturday, as a vote in the full House loomed, lawyers for the Clintons made an offer to provide limited testimony that would have centered on the 4-hour interview by Bill Clinton. But Comer expressed concerns that the former president would stonewall questions and run down the clock, which is true. That's what they do. That's what Pam Bondi was doing with her testimony. She was trying to mess things up. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We're gonna see it. I don't know. I'm saying, let's do it live. Let's look at the adrenochrome stuff. Let's see if these guys really, let's see if they really are lizards. Apparently, Hillary's not looking so good. She's been in the Middle East lately. And remember, these guys are in it for life. They have to serve their masters forever. She's still got to do her stuff and appear in the Munich and go in the Middle East and appear in Abu Dhabi, and do all this stuff and support the globalist things. They're not getting away with anything. If they were going to do anything that wasn't wanted, they would probably be offed. Their plane would probably crash or something like that. You can bet that. But we're going to get into some humor. I have got the hilarious Tim Dillon, and he's talking about what he thinks going on with the Frazzledrip, the adrenochrome, the Epstein files, and Hillary Clinton. So we're gonna take a little. It's 4 minutes long. We can pause it, but we're gonna take a little foyer into some humor here, because even though this stuff is really dark and not funny at all and kind of clusterfucked, for a lack of a better word, we also have to bring in some Tim Dillon humor. So let's check out what Tim Dillon has to say about Hillary Clinton testifying.
People are saying, let's stop the games. If you want this fight, Rep. James Comer, let's have it in public, Hillary Clinton stated. You love to talk about transparency. There's nothing more transparent than a public hearing. Cameras on. We will be there. Bill and Hill, this is their one last kill shot. They have to take Trump down. Do they blow themselves up in the process? Do they admit to raping, killing, and eating children just to take Trump down? And my friends call me, these are sane people. They're not nuts. My friends go, what do you think they'll admit to? I mean, what will they admit to take down Donald Trump? This is the last thing they have to do on earth. Hillary is crawling around the Middle East. Crawling. Get Overlord Damas Guinness up from Blade 3. Overlord Damas Guinness from Blade 3, folks. Friend of the show.
Okay, here's your vampire, Kirby. Blade, he's making a Blade 3 reference. I've never even seen the Blade series. That's the vampire thing. Hillary is like a Blade 3 vampire. Evil creeper. We're going to see in a second.
This is what Hillary Clinton currently looks like in Qatar right now, if you can find it. Overlord Damas Guinness, Blade 3.
Oh, wow. Damas
She's
Guinness.
crawling around Qatar with a cape. Her life force is almost over. She's about to go to her home planet.
The more grape soda
that she has left to do, truly, is destroy Donald Trump. She has nothing left to do. There's nothing. What does she do? What does she get? What does she give a fuck about spending time with her grandchildren? Grow the fuck up. She's got a mission, and it's a headshot. She wants to take him out. She wants calls for him to resign. She wants, yes, in the blood, to the left. There. Big. That's Hillary right now. Getting ready for the hearing. She's getting ready for the hearing right now.
Okay, she's literally in a pool of blood. She's adrenocroning herself up, trying to get her energies like, I'm going to come to the hearing, but she's got to kind of, adrenochrome herself up first before she shows up for these hearings at the end of this month. That's in that's in about 12 days, guys. 11 or 12 days. She's going to be regenerated. It's like the Dracula in Dracula Love Tale, when he discovers Mina and he's going to take off. He kind of goes to that nunnery and slaughters and drinks all their blood so he can be young again. That's what Hillary's doing. Hillary after Munich, she's going to go have a bloodbath. Elizabeth Bathory style. That's what he's saying. That's what's going on.
She has one thing left to do. And it's destroy Trump, because I don't know what Trump was a part of, but he's probably fucked some underage people, I would imagine, and God only knows what else. He's been accused of horrible things in these files. Now Trump's saying he likes Bill Clinton. Play this, because Trump knows. Here's what Trump knows. Trump didn't fear Hillary when she had something to lose. Do you understand? When Hillary needed the dark overlords, when she needed them, he didn't fear her. Now that she doesn't need them and she's about to slip her skin suit and go back to her home planet, he knows that she will go in front of Congress. There she is with her husband, Bill, and they're going to light this shit on fire. They're going to talk about Trump. They're going to talk about everything. Let's play the video.
Pause. You think they're going to talk? You think they're going to sing? I think they're definitely going to try to do damage to the Republican Party and Trump. 100%. No doubt about it if they testify. They're definitely going to do that. Will they sing everything? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's how it's gonna play out. I mean, fantasy wise, it would be like crazy if it was like this big crazy scene, and they're gonna pre-record it. It's a deposition. I don't think they're gonna live stream it anywhere. But if they did, man, they would have record. People would be there watching Hillary and Bill one more time. Remember, they dominated the '90s politically. Bill is like the front runner. He has like the great personality. Hillary was the strategizer. She was the manipulative one behind the scenes. I don't think they'll give them anything but a private deposition. I think you're right. But we can dream. We got about a minute and a half left of Tim Dillon.
And where Trump is talking about liking Bill Clinton.
Trump likes Bill Clinton now.
It bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton.
Oh.
I still like Bill Clinton.
What do you like about him?
Okay. I got to pause this because when Trump was debating Hillary, remember, he showed up with women that had accused Bill of rape in the audience. And now he's like, I like Bill. He's great.
Well, I liked his behavior toward me. I thought he got me. He understood me.
He's guilty. It's guilt. This is guilt. This is guilt. He knows. I like Bill Clinton. He knows Overlord Damas Guinness is coming. Now, Hillary and Bill, I wonder if they're going to make it to the hearing. Will they make it to the hearing? Will they make it? Here's what I think it'll be. I think someone tries to get him. Somebody shoots her in the chest, and she falls down. And the CIA, Mossad, whatever, whoever they contracted goes, we got her. And then all of a sudden, like a horror film, you just see a shadow 15 feet tall on the wall. And she gets up because she's unkillable. She's unkillable. They realize it. They go, what the fuck? Because she's here for a purpose. Hillary and Bill, I'll be so disappointed. They have to light themselves on fire to take Trump out. They want public calls for his resignation. That's what they want. There's no reason they would do this. For what? They have nothing left.
They have nothing left. He thinks they're going to go all out. She's going to shapeshift, lizard head, eat Mossad agents, and testify no matter what. Nothing's going to stop her. I personally think it'll be a lot simpler than that. That would be like the Hollywood version. That would be totally entertaining. But I think she will just avoid and manipulate, and she will try to get cross points that she wants that will damage Trump. And, now that I know so much about politics and I don't know anything of the innards because I'm not there and I don't want to be there and I never want to be around these people, I don't know if this is just some kind of distraction or like a media show thing or some kind of to keep you focused in one way while they carry out globalistic police state stuff. I'm not sure. But Frazzledrip Hillary is on the rampage. Now she started the whole Russia thing, and a lot of people thought that she had killed Epstein. She had it carried out, but remember who was president when Epstein died? It was Trump. And remember how many times Trump is mentioned in these files? Like, what is it? Over 38,000 times. Like, he's mentioned a lot. Now Bill is in there. No doubt. But it's like these people know each other, so I don't know if they're going to take each other out. Maybe they have a plan together. Maybe behind the scene they're making a plan. Maybe she's like Trump's telling her what to say. I don't know, but I refuse. I can't accept that it's going to be Hillary versus Trump, and they're all like the good and the bad, and Hillary's suddenly defending children when she's been such a cantankerous person, money laundering and all sorts of manipulation all of her life. I don't necessarily buy it. And I've never heard her say she wants the release of the Epstein files. She certainly didn't want people to know about all her emails. So I'm approaching this very skeptically. You guys let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Will Hillary turn into a giant 15-foot shadow and take out a Mossad agent or two? Will she shed her human form and her lizard self appears and she just takes out everybody in the court and we get to reveal the truth that David Icke has been telling us all along? I gather it'll be less exciting than that. I gather it will be less exciting than that. Okay. One of the biggest problems, even with the stuff that's being yeah, let's good point, pirate shipping. The trail of bodies will stack higher, I'm guessing. The Clintons have a stack of their own bodies following them, just as Trump probably does. You know, when you get friends in higher places, they're never really friends, are they? They're never really friends. DeFranco. I'm trying to look for a Frazzledrip clip that we can kind of end it on. Yeah, there's a whole stack of bodies. I mean, look at Cappy. Look at Isaac Cappy. Dead. Anyone who messes with these actors, dead. Some of these girls, one of the girls who testified that Trump brutally RA'd her, RAP, you know what, ended up with her head blown off. A lot of people, and all the real MAGA Trumpers that won't see anything, they'll just deny it. But a lot of people end up dead. Virginia Giuffre, dead. All these people just end up like drug overdosed or, they had a heart attack. I mean, the end of this, of course, is that they're using human beings and children as a supply for some crazy stuff. And whether or not there was a Frazzledrip file on, Anthony Weiner's laptop that showed that might not be true. But there's definitely some stuff in the Epstein files. And the worst thing is they're not protecting the victims. They're redacting the pedophiles' names. They're redacting the names of the people in the emails that are talking about their night with Epstein or having girls. They're protecting the people in politics. They're protecting their own. So it's hard to believe that Hillary would just go in there and and blow it all out and make it alive. It's hard to believe that she'd spend her life protecting these people and then suddenly be like, I had a change of heart. What heart, Hillary? You don't have a heart. Which heart would that be? The one you ripped out of your victim? Kali Ma style? Like which heart would that be? Like just weird stuff. YouTube doesn't want to give me anything that's now, like I said, in that article I posted, they talk about fear and loathing and all this stuff. There's a lot of mythology about adrenochrome, but it's real. And it's a real thing. It's been studied. You can go to that article that I linked. It's on my Substack, which is clusterfuck.substack.com. You can go check it out. It's there. And it's real. It has purposes when you use it in the right way. When you can construct it in the right composition to make it more stable. Okay, we got some. Do we have? David Icke talks a lot about this stuff. Now, David Icke's a hard one. Yeah, her self-preservation for sure. Her own self-preservation is her paramount goal. Absolutely. And sometimes that means you got to take some people out. Sometimes that means you gotta get back at Trump for having those girls in the audience in your debate and take him out. And I agree with Tim Dillon that Trump's very nervous because he's starting to be like, I like Bill Clinton. He's my favorite. Yeah, if I knew then in the 90s what I know now, I would have never voted for a politician ever again. Let's see if we can get a short clip. A lot of people think David Icke's crazy. I don't know. A lot of shit he says comes true. Maybe they really are. Maybe they really are maybe they really are lizards. I know it's a good metaphor, but there's people who say they've seen Tony Heath, that used to be the prime minister of Britain. He's the one who brought the UK into the European Union. A lot of people are saying they've seen him in some kind of weird circle ritual and that he actually grew into a 9-foot lizard or something. I've never seen such a thing. So I can't claim that that's right, but it's a good metaphor and symbolism, that's for sure. We're gonna watch a longer clip of David Icke, and I'll put it up in a second. I'm letting the commercial play. I hate it when they do commercials. Okay. Let's go back to share time. Because this stuff with all the torture it's not only too much, it's something that's always been happening. I don't know if we can stop it, but we sure as hell can't let it go. This is way too much. Like, this is just way too much. David Icke has been talking about this for 36 years, and everyone called him crazy. And here we have now the Epstein file. So let's listen to what he says about adrenochrome and the hidden rituals.
In our reality, are drinking the blood because this adrenaline gives them a kind of a high. It's like a drug to them. But the reason that they have such a focus on children, which I came across a long time ago now, is because for some reason these entities want a child's energy before puberty.
What is a dream?
The puberty part is important. They want it before puberty. It's like menstruation is bad. Although they do say going through puberty can cause weird paranormal experience, they don't want boys and girls to be going through puberty. They want to get them before. They use them up that way. They'll traffic them. They'll use them for as long as they can, apparently. And then once they get into their 30s, they do like snuff films, sell them off, kill them, dispatch them in all weird ways. Who knows what else? I mean, did you guys hear that Epstein had purchased like tons of that like acid, sodium chlorate or whatever they called it? No normal person has to purchase that amount. There's only one thing you would be doing with that. Sulfuric acid. He also had paid a gynecologist type doc professor at a university like $25,000 multiple times a year. And he's just saying, I was just advising him on things that had nothing to do with the island or girls. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. No one pays that kind of money for nothing. Everything just follows a theme. And it's not like we're connecting loose dots here. We're literally like, a gynecologist, girls, torture, sex trade, slave, chloroform, like sulfuric acid, like all sorts, all these things, all in this island. And there's another island. There's a few islands that he has, a few areas, a ranch. Just astounding. Just absolutely astounding. So let's keep listening to David. First I'll say, Pirate Shipping says they lost any bit of manipulation control of the simulation they once have. Ugh, I bet you they'll try and get it back. Someone said Epstein purchased the asset the same day he was prosecuted to get rid of the evidence. There's mafia. I got to do a show about mafia stuff. There's Hell's Angels that do this shit too. And we're on the same length. Yeah. Hey, yeah, Lucas. We're going to listen to some David Icke here talk about the adrenochrome stuff and the rituals to tie up the show towards the end.
Adrenochrome, and who finds adrenochrome useful?
Well, adrenochrome is when this adrenaline enters the blood. I've had it described to me by Satanists who've taken part in these rituals, how while the entities are feeding off the energetic level of the terror, that the Satanists in our reality are drinking the blood, because this adrenaline gives them a kind of a high. It's like a drug to them, because they're very, very disturbed people. So you start to realize.
Is this?
I'm going to pause this and add to the thing about the acid. There's pictures of like some kind of chute on Epstein Island that they think they were like dropping bodies down into some pit. People were doing LiDAR of the island trying to find pits like online. Like people are going crazy. There's just so much in this drop, and we only have 50% of it. That is absolutely crazy. So if I hope Lucas, I know you might think David's a little nuts, but I don't know. What he's saying isn't far off what I have heard about these Epstein files.
From children? Is this where the adrenochrome is coming from?
Well, it comes from anybody that goes through that terror, but the reason that they have such a focus on children, which I came across a long time ago now, is because for some reason these entities want a child's energy before puberty. So when you look at puberty, it appears to be a chemical hormonal change. But that chemical hormonal change is an expression of an energetic frequency change that's taking place in their energetic field.
Everything's
and
frequency.
They
Everything's
want
energy.
that energy before that change takes place. It's something they crave for some reason.
And they is astral entities. If we can't use the term they,
they're saying astral energies. Like they're saying that these politicians are possessed by something outside of our realm, which you could see it like a parasite, that we don't see everything because we have a limited access to the spectrum where light is because of that we live in 3D, but these things are outside of it. They possess these kind of politicians to get this this crazy adrenochrome energy. I think that's what he's getting at. I'm not saying this. We're exploring the fringe here. But he's saying this. He's been on Redacted lately, and he met Ted Heath and watched Ted Heath do weird things in front of him. There is something creepy, almost snake-like, about some of these elites. I actually talked to one time, and I was like, ew. I felt like a mouse being hypnotized by a snake. It was creep.
What if there had to be a label outside of they? Is the label astral entities, and is there any way to be more specific than that?
What is up? I want to first of all thank you for being here, and secondly,
no, we don't want that. We need to go past that. You're going to advertise. We need to get there. We go.
It's a common theme throughout religions and ancient cultures. It's this, that this world is manipulated by a force, entities, from in the unseen, and they're given different names. And the Gnostic belief system calls them archons, which is Greek for rulers. And they talk about an entity that oversees those archons.
I have noticed a lot of even Tim Dillon and all this stuff, and Candace, they're very Catholic-y. which is like they're saying we have to go back to our religion, Catholic, as if the Catholic Church hasn't done damage. A lot of them try to villainize the Gnostics, but or this idea, I've heard them. They're saying, "Oh, this is horrible, this Epstein stuff," but then they say to say your God is horrible. The Gnostics aren't saying you're God. The Gnostics are saying you're a spark of God. Because you're alive. You're a spark of the divine. You are not the divine, but you're a spark of, and you kind of come from that place. And the church does not like you to think that way. That's why they villainize Gnostics, and they'll say, "Oh, they're Luciferians and they're devil worshippers and they're sacrificers," and they're not. This is not true. But it's why I more and more think Candace, even though I'll watch her shows, I think she is some kind of controlled op. She's definitely representing the Catholic Church because she's preaching it. But come on, Candace. You think the Catholic Church doesn't have sacrifice and pedophilia in its background? Please, please, please. Oh, no.
Rulers, which they call Yaldabaoth. Also, they call it the demiurge. And then you look at other, but take religions. You look at the demons of Christianity and the Satan devil symbolism. Then you look at Islam and you see the jinn. All these are entities that operate outside of the visible light frequency. You know, the specificity of it's coming from this astral force, these astral entities. And there are representatives. This global cult represents and seeks to advance the agenda dictated by these astral entities. That's why you get.
So when Tim Dillon's making fun of Hillary, the suit and everything, it's because Hillary's representing astral demons and lizards. Pirate Shipping says, I think they're going to have to pay the Pied Piper soon. Yeah, it's just crazy. Lucas says, I believe a lot of what Ike has said is correct. These things have divine bloodlines from the Nakash, the shining ones, interdimensional, a perfect possession, meaning that it's not what we know of on TV, but the interdimensional physical aspect of a parasite. That's why I said they're like parasites. They're it's like having a parasite attached to you. Parasites can change your behavior and change your thinking and make you behave differently. Demons kind of like an intergalactic parasite. It absolutely makes sense, Lucas. Thank you for leaving the comment. And let's let David Icke talk about the dark forces that are harvesting adrenochrome.
The interaction in Satanism and what have you. And these, a lot of these people, not least the royal families, but many others too, are hybrids. They're part human, part non-human. And they have joint energetic fields. And most of the time, the energetic field you see is the human field, obviously. But what I've been told many times over the years by people who've taken part in these rituals is that when they're among, if you like, friends, when they're among safe people in a safe situation, they shift into something else, which is absolutely not human. And I've been told now since, the mid.
So what people say is the shift happens on a vibration level. They're not really shifting. Some vibration is happening and you're seeing it because they're vibrating on some different plane or differently. I'm not sure. I've never seen one, but I felt uncomfortable around people where if they had turned into a lizard, I wouldn't have been surprised at all.
1990s, over many, 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 many times in different parts of the world, how people have sometimes seen this shift take place. It's called shapeshifting. So these people are not all human. In fact, the major bloodline families are not. And this is where you get royalty from. Why our royalty tried to, and aristocracy tried to retain a particular frequency, a particular bloodline, which is the frequency field in its base form. It's because
So another theory is like all these DNA tests. My husband has talked about this, that the DNA kits that they were doing, they're looking for bloodlines. There was that company, 23andMe, was it? I think it was, no, which one was it? It went bankrupt. And apparently Epstein was ordering like cases and cases of these tests, doing weird DNA tests. And I think that could be one element, that they're looking for some kind of blood frequency that they prefer. It's like they're like, "Hey, you want to know your history?" And meanwhile, they're like casing. They always do that. They represent it in this positive way towards us, but it's got this nefarious underground where they're kind of like casing out different blood vibrations that works better, so Hillary can have her blood bath. I don't know if it's true, but that is one of the things pushed forward, that's what these DNA testing kits are for. 23andMe is one of them. Yeah. It's so crazy.
they're different. And if you interbreed outside of that hybrid nature, then it soon starts to get diluted. And
Yes, it gets diluted, but then you don't get a Habsburg jaw or a horsey face like and like King Charles. Some of these royal, like you see Prince Andrew's daughter's got that horsey face. They get like this real horsey face. It's the inbreeding. They're all cousins.
and this is why you've had this whole process over the centuries of royalty interbreeding with each other, aristocracy breeding with each other, and why you get the so-called
This isn't crazy at all, because this is literally in the history with aristocracy breeding and some of these people that I was talking about that were into cults and funding, like the Moonies. They were into horse breeding. They love this idea of pure blood, purebred breeding things. But we know if you do too pure, you get retarded babies. You get babies with deformities. You get the King Charles II of Spain, Habsburg. You get low IQ. And if you listen to them talk in the emails, in the Epstein emails, some of them sound so stupid. Some of them sound really dumb. Like, just the way they're talking. I'm like, what universe? How come these guys are ruling everything? Like, this is crazy. These are who's ruling the world? And they send weird emails. Like, have you ever heard they released King Charles when he was Prince Charles, his little letters to Camilla? Like, it was gross. Something about a hot dog and a bun, or a tampon, like really weird childish stuff. Like, just like, ew, dude, like that. Wow. Anyways, let's keep going.
establishment families in the United States interbreeding with each other. It's to hold this particular bloodline, this particular genetic type, and that genetic type seems to like human blood, and particularly if it's infused with adrenochrome. So that's one level of it. But also, as has been explained to me, this adrenochrome is literally like a drug. Once you get hooked on it, you get hooked on it, and you want more. And so that's one of the reasons that they do it. But the foundation reason for the rituals is to feed the energy of terror to the entities in the astral realm that overlook and oversee the ritual. And these rituals are not, every now and again. They're happening all the time. And this satanic calendar, as they call it, which includes Beltane and Halloween and many others, is real, and they follow it.
All right. Sorry, Halloweeners. I mean, I'll let you believe what you want, but that was David Icke's take on it. And the other element that he doesn't talk about, they collect that and they will go, that's what probably horror movies are about. They will go and create trauma with war. They do all sorts of ways to not just the adrenochrome, but like the thing they call loosh. Like they're constantly reproducing actions to get us out of a calm and neutral state. And when we were talking in the beginning, in the first half, we were talking about Ram Dass and the CIA ties and how they use cults and spirituality to manipulate populations and control things and destabilize populations. They infiltrate the religion. And remember, these evil people, they can never create it. They can only mimic it. They go in and they mimic these organic cultures, and then they pair them up, and instead of just meditating, they'll put drugs into it and or sex. It's because it destroys the foundation of the spirituality and the family and all that stuff. And or they're trying to take over the governments there, add some democracy, so they say. But it's the same idea with all these sort of like adrenochrome thing. They're infiltrating your mind to make you afraid, to make you vibrate a certain way so that you give them fear. And when you see all these people being offed, I think another element that nobody talks about, it's like the signing of the contract. It depends what contract you sign. And when you sign contracts with them or you make agreements with them, it gives them in their mind some kind of right over you. So if you double cross them, it's easier for them to whack you. We'll put it that way. It's why all these contracts and stuff we sign can be dooming. And if you get up in with them and they allow you into their circle as a servant, or you have some skill they want, you can put yourself at peril because now they consider that they have the right to get rid of you or do what they want if you're a threat. That's that psychopathic lizard mindset. And I would stay far, far away from these people. On my website, we always say in this place, observe, don't absorb, because you don't want to absorb all the crap, because you want to keep lighter or at least calm. Like, it's nice to have a calm base because that's where you get the real spirituality. I say, I'm going to come up with like fold your towels, do something mundane, because that's where you find that inner voice and in the quiet. You don't find it in the horror movies, in the crazy, in the Super Bowls. You don't find it watching Hillary Clinton, really. That's excitement. That's kind of creating the loosh, right? That gets up there. And same with when you're afraid. You only find that inner voice where nobody's around, right? It's mundane stuff. So it's something to take heed of. But this Epstein file stuff coming out, and we've only probably, they're letting us see, like, there's probably people still going through these millions of documents, parsing through them, and they're redacted. We don't know who. I mean, I guess we could guess who they are. There used to be a program, but that's if it was a PDF. You could take the PDF apart and see the different layers. I wish there was something where you could like go in to these files and remove the redactic and like see the digital, like the layers of it. I wish that existed, because it would be nice to know who these people that they're redacting. And some of them I might not even know who they are. They might just be stupid rich and unknown. And some of them we might know. Speaking of stupid people, we talked about, really briefly, what's his name there? Our little favorite guru. I've never been able to stand him. Oh, I can see his mucky little face now, but I'm forgetting his name because my mind is so full of stuff. But he's in the Epstein files. It'll come to me in a second. I'll remember him. Deepak Chopra. He's in there. And he's always hustled the spirituality, the East meets West. Wouldn't be surprised if Deepak Chopra had CIA ties and stuff like that. I'm going to check. We can look because this ties in. Deepak is one of these people that's deep in. He's deep into AI and creating an AI version of himself. I've got this article here that says how Deepak Chopra's AI spirituality is hijacking spiritual hunger. God, he looks like he's running out of adrenochrome. Last month, more than 20,000 pages from Jeffrey Epstein's estate were released by the House Oversight Committee. The name of Deepak Chopra, the wellness guru with multiple best-selling books, reappears repeatedly. Emails show Chopra recalling an evening with Epstein as a blast ended 1 a.m. Chopra later expressed relief when one of Epstein's accusers dropped her lawsuit. Between 2016 and 2019, continuing well after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor, Chopra has at least a dozen documented meetings with him, physical meetings with him, not emails. Last Friday, Chopra launched something that says more about modern American spirituality than his Epstein connections, an AI companion to his entire body of work. 95 books, thousands of videos. He's been planning this for years. He's been planning this since 2019, 2020. It's thousands of videos, decades of talks have been fed into a proprietary model designed to answer your existential questions. For 50 cents per 30-minute sessions, or $10 a month, we can read the mind of a pedophile asshole who looks like a fucking dehydrated turtle. Readers can now ask Digital Deepak about their purpose. Okay, fuck Digital Deepak. Boomers chicks love this stuff. Boomer women, fuck Digital Deepak. Fold your towels, mow your lawn, do something mundane, and your inner quiet voice will help you. Fuck Digital Deepak. Lisa Braun Doubles runs a publicity firm in the spiritual wellness place. Spirituality has become commercial and about sales. This is all crap. This makes me angry. She knows how these systems work. My light went off. Sorry, guys. We'll have to have it off until the end. It times out after a while. Building infrastructure for spiritual teachers. She knows how these systems work from the inside. Last week, she published an analysis of what Chopra actually built with this AI platform. So you guys can go check this out and see what she analyzed. I won't keep going into it. But this guy who's on the Epstein list, we do our spiritual Sundays here. He has a Digital Deepak thing where he wants people to pay him so they can spew out. Look, we blocking Tupac there. He's being a dick in the chat. I had to block him. There's a lot of dicks on Kick. There's kick dicks, so we don't want them here. We're streaming there. We get a few people, but we got to block them because they're ridiculous. So here we go. Did I put it in the chat? Yeah, it's right there in the chat. You can go read the article. But Deepak Chopra, who's in the Epstein list, he's literally launching this AI, Deepak, spirituality crap. I'm going to tie up this show and remind you guys that you don't need to pay for this. You don't need to join a cult. You don't even need to join a church. You can pick up the Bible if you want or read some teachings, but really, you just need to get really quiet and do something mundane, and insights will come to you. You remember a time when you were little and you were free playing outside. God help the current generations who probably don't even know. You just don't need this crap. Not for a second. And these guys are just about money. They're literally, Deepak's preying on young girls. Right there on the Epstein list. And now he's trying to make money. That ugly fucker. And I've heard some bad stuff about him. His assistants, his staff members have said he is not a nice man. So he's going to give you a fake, crappy AI for money. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, he's a pedo. allegedly, and a very nasty, mean man. So that's who you're going to be giving your money to. All these I love this one. Boomer chicks love this stuff. Sorry, my mom's a boomer. I don't think she's into Deepak Chopra, but I totally get it. They'll do that, and then they'll read Eat, Love, Pray, shit like that. This guy is a monster, and most of the people in this industry, Wayne Dyer, all those people, you got to question them. If I know now, if I known back when I was younger what I know now, I would have probably never bought half these spiritual books. Some of them are good. Some of them say good stuff, but you shouldn't have to pay for half this crap. And these guys make so much money. I can't help but think that they have connections with CIA and stuff like that. Well, that's the show for today. Go check out that Tim Dillon episode, by the way. He's got a couple of good ones out about Epstein that make you laugh. That are, if you need a laugh and you don't want to be so deep and heavy about it. We've been going close to about 2 hours and 40 minutes, so it's a good time to wrap it up. We're going to be doing next Sunday, 3 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be starting talking. We're going to revisit Jim Jones. And that should be interesting because he's definitely in with the CIA, my friends. And we're going to go there. And I have a job interview this week. So if things change, I'll let you know. Hopefully I get it and I can set my schedule that aligns with all this stuff. But I want to thank you guys, of course, for showing up and everybody who commented. Remember, give this show a thumbs out before you head out because it really helps it place in the algorithm on YouTube. And I will see you guys on Sunday. I'll probably be posting mini clips and stuff during the week, just so you know. But I'll see you guys on Sunday. And peace be with you. And remember, observe, don't absorb. Don't buy their merch. Don't wear their logos. Don't give them money. Don't go to their mass events. Stay away from that stuff. It's Sunday afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the cluster. It is time to navigate through this giant cluster. You know what? I will be live with you in just 1 minute. So in the meantime, please feel free to support the channel by subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up.